Hello, everybody. My name is Dean of the InkGuild, and welcome back to another episode of Shorthand. Today, we're going to be looking back on episode 6 that Jessica and I did, focusing on the most annoying tropes within young adult fiction, also known as YA. As always, you can find our social media down the description below, or just search up at the InkGuild on Instagram and Twitter, as well as following us individually. But with all that being said, let's get right into the highlights. Hi friends, how's it going? Welcome back to the InkGuild Podcast. I'm Dean, joined today by Jessica.
Hello.
Cool. So today we're going to be talking about our most annoying YA tropes. Between the two of us, we do read a lot of YA. I think her more than I have, because there was a time where I didn't read as much, and I think just by getting back into YA specifically, I've been able to read a lot more regularly, but that doesn't excuse how many problems it has. So keep in mind that when we are talking about our most annoying thing or our most annoying tropes, we may get into spoiler territory. So here's your warning, or here's your collective warning right now. So, Jessica, do you want to start with your first pick?
So the first one that really bothers me is when the protagonist doesn't see their own attractiveness, I guess. When the narrating voice is like, my god, I am so ugly and no boys like me or whatever, and I'm just like, excuse me, what?
Yeah.
There are lots of YA books. I find it especially bad in contemporary YA, where it's usually girls too. I mean, I've seen a couple with male characters that are I'm not strong enough to be on the football team or whatever, and it's mostly girls, and they're usually oh yeah, I'm nothing special and whatever. I'm no, own that. Aelin in the Throne of Glass series. You never hear her say, I'm not pretty. She just walks in and she's like, except I'm here, praise me. And you're like, yes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The whole oh, I don't recognize my own kind of beauty thing. In general, I find that kind of annoying. Not even in books. When anyone I meet who is oh, I'm not a pretty person or whatever. I don't see my own worth. It's you are the most stunning human being I have ever seen. Shut the hell up right now. And another thing too, maybe you might agree with me on this, but when it comes to the big elaborate plots that stuff like the Hunger Games or Maze Runner or Throne of Glass, when there's so much already, is your physical attractiveness really more is your physical attractiveness really something to highlight anyway?
Yeah, I agree with that. There are lots of characters that I've seen who authors make them conceited.
Yeah.
And I'm that's good as a flaw or something. I'm you should at least make the rest of your characters semi-confident in their abilities, I guess. Not so much not just appearance, but them somewhat confident in themselves. Otherwise, it gets tiring after a while.
Yeah. And you can understand why that trope is a trope, right? It's a pretty easy thing where, you don't recognize your own self-beauty, but along the way, after going through so much and eventually falling for the super hot love interest, it's oh, maybe I was gorgeous the entire time. And everyone at this point, it's I feel when you're first reading books or when you're first reading a lot of YA, you're oh, that's so sweet. But when you've read the same old trope being used by completely different characters, it's ugh. So my first pick for a YA trope that annoys me is the sorting house trope. So you have the four main houses in Hogwarts. There's Gryffindor, Slytherin, Ravenclaw, and Hufflepuff. That kind of sorting system has, or each school has a pre-meditated kind of, or they each have their own kind of attributes associated with each one. So if you're a Gryffindor, you're a lot braver, you take a lot more risks. If you're Slytherin, you're a lot more cunning, and with Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff, like by now everyone kind of knows that sorting system. And I thought, because like Harry Potter was really the only one to do it at the time, that it was a pretty interesting way of writing a story. Like, oh, you sort these characters based on how they act, and that kind of determines a lot of their personality, and you can kind of make your guesses as to how they're going to act for the rest of the story. But I think in the stories following it, it's just been so overdone that it's in a lot of the big ones, actually. Like, if you can think of, in Divergent, you have the different class systems. In Maze Runner, you have the different roles. Like, I don't know, it just feels like determining someone's personality already like that, and sorting them into sorting them into a system that already determines a lot about their personality already, when we haven't really gotten into the crux of that. It's like, well, now there goes all my curiosity on how this character might react. Because I like that kind of mystery. I like that when I like it when a character goes into a situation and I find out how they react to it on the spot. Like, I don't want to be told how they are already going to be reacting because of what their role is already. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. It's kind of a way to like bulk characterize characters like all at once, just to give, I guess, like a rounded picture of the character at the start of the book. Like, you already know that, like in Harry Potter, you already know that Malfoy is a bad guy because he's in Slytherin. It takes less time to characterize characters when you separate them into like categories or districts or houses or whatever it is in Divergent. I didn't read that series. So,
neither did I.
But I think it's just a way to quickly characterize different characters without like having to do it throughout. I guess the first few chapters of the book, you can just do it in like a couple pages or something instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely comes up quite a bit.
Yeah. It's seriously it's not my most annoying trope, but it is by far obviously one of my 3 picks, because it's something that I've seen so commonly in like the big YA books, and occasionally in some smaller ones too, where like that immediate kind of like you were talking about earlier, how it kind of already presets your character's personality and how they're going to react to things. It's like, well, where's the surprise there? Like, it, like, locking them into a situation, for me at least, it kind of feels like, okay, so we know that they're going to get out of this situation based on how they've been sorted already. And that, there's no kind of interest for me anymore, because if they're if they're a Gryffindor, for example, then they're going to react, they're going to take a bit more of a risk with the situation. I'd like to see where it goes still, but like, I don't know. I'd like to think that characters have their own intuition and their own kind of, I guess, their own decision making, and I don't want to have some kind of system already determining that, because I guess the whole point of that system in the first place is eventually the main character, at least, will be breaking away from it, which is such an expected trope, it is such an expected cause and effect that comes with like sorting everyone in these houses in the first place. It's like, I like unpredictability when it comes to my characters, and I like seeing how they react in situations without some kind of thing, without already knowing everything about them beforehand.
So my second YA trope that really, really bothers me is the outsider.
Oh my god.
Like the whole I'm not like other girls, or I'm it's like that meme format where it's like rest in peace but I'm different. Like, no.
What? Wait, hold on. I'm like, thinking of completely different thing, but like I think I get what you mean. I definitely know this trope, but like what, where does that come from?
I don't know.
Okay, continue on.
Like, like the character is like, yeah, like this skateboard, I'm not like other girls or whatever. Author that's really bad for that is Sarah Dessen. Her like male protagonists are usually like, oh my god, like I'm the shy, quiet girl, and like nobody understands me, and I don't have any friends. I'm like, this is aggressive. I don't know. It's when you put like the character or characters like outside, I guess, and they're always like, no one understands me. I'm so different from everybody else. I'm like, yeah, we know. You don't have to tell us or draw attention to it. But like I said, it's really common in Sarah Dessen books, but in like contemporary YA fiction in general, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. Like in, I guess with like fantasy YA, it's almost always the protagonist is some kind of outsider. And we were talking about, visual appearances in the first one. Like there's definitely a lot of key visual differences between the main character or the protagonist and the other main characters at the very least. And I'm thinking of Sarah J. Maas. And we were talking about this actually in the episode with Alex on just how different Aelin looks compared to every other one or every other character in the story. Like I both commend and kind of critique Sarah J. Maas for like just how like visually different every character is, because it's a good thing that each character is not easily separable. It's not like you can easily like distinguish which character is which just by their facial appearances.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, why? It's just
drawing attention to like outsiderness it's so annoying. I can't deal with it. If a character does that, I immediately hate them. Honestly, it's like, because I've read so many like YA books that have especially girl characters doing that, and I'm just like, get it, like you like the Beatles, you're not like every other girl, but like get over it.
Yeah,
deal with it. You don't have to tell me. Again, it's like telling and not showing. Like Sarah J. Maas does a good job of telling you that, or showing you that her characters are different. We know Aelin is different because she's in prison. In like the first book, she's like an assassin. Mm-hmm. We obviously know she's different, but you never catch her being like, not like other girls. It's like, I am fierce and I am hot and people should fear me. And I'm like, that is a better way to say that she is different from other people than just being like, different from other girls because blah 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 blah.
Yeah. This one really is it's not super personal to me, but it's one that like I almost put in as number one, but there's one that really annoys me even more than that, and that is having dead parents. The dead parents trope is where do I even begin? Like,
that was my third one, in all honesty. That's the one that bothers me the most.
So why I'm annoyed with it is that it is just everywhere. In Percy Jackson, Percy's mom gets killed. In City of Bones, or The Mortal Instruments, Clary's mom gets killed. In Throne of Glass, Aelin's parents die. What is it? In Maze Runner,
I don't have any parents.
Yeah, or like Thomas is an orphan. He don't have any parents, but
there's like no adult, I guess, besides the people that are like testing them for something.
Yeah. So. Like, And those are just the big examples, because I think I was talking about it earlier on how you're marketing YA to young adults, case in point, and there is such like there like obviously because kids are young and impressionable, like you want to set the importance of like just how much these parents to mean to a teenager, and without them they would be whatever this, but like at this point when it comes to killing off parents in a book, it's like, oh great, what kind of emotional BS am I gonna have to endure through now? Like,
yeah, it's been done so many times. Like I when I first started writing my own stories, I was very guilty of this. I would automatically, when I was making a character, be like, I'll have no parents.
mm-hmm.
We're starting off that way.
Yeah.
Or if they do have parents, they have like one parent. That was,
oh my god, yeah, like the step parent trope too.
Yeah, that was like my template, because I'd read it so many times. Like, in The Mortal Instruments, Clary has her mother, and then her mother like kidnapped and is like not really in the books like at all, really.
Yeah.
And like Lightwoods have both their parents, but their parents suck for a large portion of the books. and like Jace goes through like 20 sets of parents because nobody knows who owns him until like the second last book or something. Then like and like Harry Potter, it was kind of like kind of clear why she did that, because it was like war and like he was meant like not have his parents so that he could like go to Hogwarts completely blind and like not know that he was like super famous.
Yeah.
But in so many other books, it's so overused.
It's honestly stupid.
I never understood that either. Like, once, of course, like I got past writing where I was more or less copying the authors that I was reading and like killing everyone's parents or like making them really horrible parents that should definitely have social workers on their case. And I came to a point where I was like, wait a second, if I make them have parents, I get introduced like way more drama and way more tension, because then they'll have rules they can't break because their parents are there. So I was like, why do so many authors get rid of the parents when there's like so many ways that you can use them, like restrict your character or like pressure on your character? Why do we as writers parents in novels so much?
Yeah, like for me, like if we're thinking on just how to like do the trope kind of differently, like keeping parents alive definitely does open up a lot of opportunity for for more drama and whatever, and I agree. But to me, like, has any YA story started off with a friend death? Like, and I'm pretty sure that there has been, but like if I'm trying to recall, like there have been no significant stories, at least to me, that have started off with a friend dying or a friend being abusive, because oftentimes, parent relationships or parent kid relationships aren't really that good. And you can use that as some kind of development. But I feel like with friends, there are friends, especially to estranged youth, or just youth that, don't really get along with their parents, that like having that kind of relationship being told, like that would be a lot more impactful. If they were to suddenly get killed off, especially early on in the story too, because then it's then I'd love to see an opposite switch around where suddenly it's the parent dies near the end of the book and the friend dies first. Back. So we're going to be finishing our discussion on the most annoying YA tropes. Jessica, what is your third pick?
So mine is the love triangle.
Oh my god, that's my third pick too. Yes, I'm glad we're in agreement that love triangles are the worst.
Oh.
They are the most annoying and the worst.
Like, okay, love triangles. Here's why I hate them. because usually, like 90% of the time, they seem so forced.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
So, like, I'm talking Twilight level for Jacob, Edward, and Bella level of love triangles. It's just it's almost like well, I don't want people to know that the two main love interests are gonna end up together. And I'm like, for the most part, we already know. It's fine. Instead of being like, we're gonna have drama happen between the two of them, it's gonna maybe they're gonna get into a fight. Maybe something's gonna happen between them. No, we're gonna introduce this half-naked werewolf dude.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Twilight. Yeah.
And I'm like, it's so needless. Like, there's no reason to have a love triangle most of the time.
I think love triangles back in the Twilight era, they were already no, we don't need you, because they feel like you said, they don't really feel necessary, and nowadays they really don't feel necessary anymore. But I guess going back to the Twilight love triangle, that's really the one that kind of, I think in my opinion, that's really the one that kind of popularized everything. So it was either you were Team Edward or Team Jacob, and quite frankly, and there were people who were Team Bella, who doesn't need, she doesn't need anyone, or she doesn't need either of them. And it's I don't want any of this anyway.
Right?
And how, and the handling of that entire love triangle too is just we knew I had only ever really read the first book, but I didn't even need to continue on with everything to know that Bella was gonna end up with Edward anyway.
Yeah, and it just creates a bunch of needless drama instead of having tension between the actual two people in the couple. It just introduces a third person so that they can blame their problems on this third person instead of actually
yeah
together.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm okay, but I was Team Jessica. One of her high school friends in the first book. That was me.
Yeah.
That was my life. Because I was you know what? Screw them. I don't need love triangle. I'm going to go with the girl who's I want this one guy to ask me to prom. It's going to happen. I'm going to make it happen. And it's going to be great.
I think when it comes to love triangles, it's certainly one that I just don't want forced down my throat. I don't want it to be the main thing that these characters kind of prioritize. And I think when it comes to kind of romantic contemporary fiction in general, in John Green, you can kind of excuse it. But I've said in previous episodes, or I've said in a previous episode when we were talking about book adaptations, that I really am against unnecessary love stories in the first place. And a love triangle is the most unnecessary of unnecessary love stories.
No way is a love triangle necessary for your book to be good. John Green doesn't really use a lot of love triangles. I found he usually uses problems, cancer or family stuff or whatever. He usually doesn't go towards the love triangle. It's very refreshing. I actually really enjoy that. But I think Sarah J. Maas, as you were saying earlier, she does a really good job of not doing the Disney thing that a lot of YA is guilty of doing, where the girl ends up with the first guy she falls in love with in a book. Whereas Sarah J. Maas is wow, I went from Dorian to Kale to Owen, and it wasn't ever a love triangle or a weird love square thing, whatever. It was she went from one to the other.
Yeah,
it's there was tension. It wasn't a triangle, so it was okay.
Yeah, it goes down to, I guess, when it comes to love triangles, there's as the age-old cliche goes, there's always more fish in the sea. It's just because it's been so overdone, and often at the center of a lot of these characters' development, a love triangle, is just what makes it so annoying to me, at least. Like, especially when it comes to like grander kind of story arcs, when it comes to like the Hunger Games and the Revolution or the Rebellion or Throne of Glass, and quite literally saving all of Ardalan. Like, well, not just Ardalan, but like the entire continent. Basically, it's like there's more important things to worry about, guys. don't You don't need to worry about this other two people that are fighting for your attention.
I don't know. They seem like a lazy way to add tension between two people that are in a relationship together. It seems kind of the easy way out. Like, hey, we're gonna add this third person. I'm like, no. You have these two characters and you put them together, or they put themselves together, because characters do whatever they want. You put them together. You've made them compatible or whatever. You chose that, or they chose that, or whatever. And then all of a sudden, instead of having them with each other or each other, which usually happens in real life relationships at some point in some way, shape, or form, instead of doing that, happens in real life, you just bring in this convenient third person. Just like drop them down Google Maps, and you're just like, wreak havoc, have fun, see you later. Yeah. I'm like, excuse me, no, do not take the easy, lazy way out. Take these two people and have them have their own problems, and you have them deal with it.
Love triangles have come and gone through so much storytelling, whether it's like even outside of YA. It's one of the most common storytelling tropes that you can put your characters through, and quite frankly, I've had enough of it, and Jessica's had enough of it too, so I think that's it. I always do a final send-off, so I think as an honorary mention, what's one annoying YA trope that you want to quickly talk about but haven't been able to get into?
I think mine would probably be whole like chosen one trope, where like character is like the one person who can do this. Like, I'm not into that.
Yeah, the chosen one trope is it's the most familiar kind of storytelling, and I don't need it in a YA book.
Yeah, like I don't need a character who's like, I'm chosen for this. My job, I'm the only one who can do this. I'm like, get out. Leave. Yeah. It's widely overused in a lot YA, like regular fiction and mystery novels, and it's everywhere.
Yeah. So my honorary mention is one that was supposed to be one of my picks, but I ended up crapping out of it because there was one more important one that I wanted to talk about. But my honorary mention is dystopias. Like, I don't need another story about a crappy government, because as of recording this, there already is a crappy government, and I'm not going to name names. We all probably remember which one I'm talking about if you were listening in the given time period. Just saying, but like,
you mean everyone?
Jessica, I said not to name names, but like, I don't need thing like when it comes to dystopias. I'm already familiar with the formula of like, oh, there's bound to be a rebellion. No matter how interesting your character is, they're probably going to be the leader of the rebellion anyway. So it's like, I don't even want to read the book anymore because I can already predict it, right? And
yeah, I think the dystopian genre needs some work.
Yeah, and I guess as a final send off, look, keep in mind that when we are talking about, our most annoying YA tropes, there are still a lot of pretty good stories that kind of incorporate, that kind of incorporate these things anyway. Keep in mind that this is just our opinions on these, and if you like these tropes, cool for you. Art reading is pretty subjective anyway, but just saying they can be a little bit annoying. And especially if you've read as much as we have, they're very annoying. So with that all being said, thanks for listening, everyone, and tune in for our next episode, whatever that ends up being. So goodbye.
Bye.